All right, for my presentation, I'm kind of focusing on two ends of the spectrum of what I've learned. One was kind of learning what to be aware of, what the problems are that are arising, and the other was what I need to do about it. I guess being a millennial teacher, the first article that I'm focusing on is Castro's implications of millennial teachers. One thing that I just jumped out to me right away. I focused on the more recent articles instead of going through the whole thing. I think that would try to keep it concise. So one thing that I jumped out to me immediately was that I need to be aware. I need to be aware of the problems that arise and know that there are things that I don't understand. Just jumping into things and trying to act like I have a knowledge of everything isn't going to do me much good or do my students much good. So being able to go in and kind of humble myself and be able to learn and be able to just say, I need help, I need to be able to do this with you, is something that I think is one thing that jumped out to me about being a millennial teacher. Just going in and knowing that I don't have all the answers. But there are some things that I also found. One thing is knowing that outside circumstances are a big problem. I think there is a sense of individualism, but also you need to understand that there are outside circumstances that students can't control, that happen during the year, during their school experience, whether it's K through 12 or into college. There's daily lives that affect your school life, and being able to understand that as a teacher, understanding that the cultural experiences that these kids feel are very different than what I felt as a student, but still I might be able to talk to them, and being able to understand those external factors have a big impact. Something that I want to be able to understand, so that I'm not beating myself or beating the kid up over not trying, or just trying to understand where they're coming from is something that I think is very important to creating a multicultural and accepting environment. I think another thing that stood out to me was they talked about how they polled students who would rather work in a white school, and that they expect the black and Native American schools to be less successful. I think just not buying in and going in with those prejudices and going in with those expectations is something that I should do. I know I'm not going to have the most ideal students and the most desirable classes when I'm a student teacher. At least that's what I'm told. But just not going in with the attitude that, oh, this year's lost, and I guess I just have to make it through it to try and get to next year and better students. I think going in and taking the situation and giving the kids what they deserve, which is the best that I can do, is something that I need to do, and not keep my expectations low, because I think I can do a great job, and my students can do a great job in whatever students I have. And I think I can do that through my background experiences. I love having background experiences. I love the privileges that I've had in being able to take things that I've learned, whether it's I traveled abroad to Spain, I lived in the Dominican Republic for a while, I've lived in the North, I've lived in the South, I've had experiences all over the world, been to Africa, Europe, South America. Just having those opportunities brings a whole new perspective into things, and not just sharing my own background experiences, but taking what students have to offer as well, can really create an environment that I want to create, which they emphasized. A line that they said was, or a quote that they took was, creating a safe environment, promoting mutual respect, learning to listen to others, recognizing multiple perspectives, different realities, being willing to unlearn, and increasing self-awareness. I think those are characteristics that I want to define my classroom, a place where students can come and be comfortable, where students can come and be who they are, is something that I think is really important. I think I really learned ways to implement that through Banks' 5 dimensions of multiculturalism. I think immediately right off the bat, we've talked a lot about content integration. I think one way that I can do that is there's great authors, as an English teacher, there's great authors who can give you so many different perspectives. I can get perspective of like Latin American immigrants. I can get perspectives of African Americans throughout history, whether it's Frederick Douglass or whether it's the poets of the early 19th century, or I can even take speeches of Martin Luther King. There's so much that I can do to integrate the cultures of my students into the curriculum and showing them that what these people do have to offer is important and that I want to learn about it with them. And maybe they can teach me a little more. That's where knowledge construction comes in. Taking what they know, taking what I know, and bringing it together so that we're able to learn from each other and we're able to just bring each other deeper into understanding. And I think that's really important. And showing that what they have to offer and what their cultures have to offer, what their background has to offer, is important to me and should be important to my students. And my environment in the classroom that I want is one of respect, where they can share this without fear of being laughed at, without fear of being scoffed and having their opinions put to the side. That's really what I want. And I guess on to the next part is empowering student culture. I think that's creating a classroom where students are empowered, where students come together, where students um, blend is something that's very important. I think that when you look at a lunchroom and see the black kids sitting with the black kids and the Mexicans with the Mexicans and the whites with the whites, I think that can be looked at as a problem, but I don't think that's where you need to start to solve the problem. I think the problem needs to be solved in the classroom or in student groups and athletics, in the different offerings that schools have to be able to move forward and showing students that this club isn't just for the black students. This club isn't just for the white students. I think bringing those together, and I could do that in my classroom, showing that W.E.B. Du Bois isn't just for the black students. We can learn a lot from him. Or there's Spanish poets too that aren't just for the Mexican kids. Like we can study so much about them and learn so much about ourselves and about culture through that, and I think that's really important. I also really liked how they mentioned how our country is founded on the saying "E pluribus unum," and taking that, I really want to apply it to my classroom. From many are one. I think that's really cool. It really defines our country as a whole, and I think that our education system should reflect that as well. From many different students become one group, and I think that's really cool. And I also, I guess, to wrap it all up, something that I see is I feel that research is kind of focused on how my generation's the answer, or my generation's so much more accepting of different cultures. Well, it doesn't just have to be my generation. I see it as an opportunity not only to train the generation coming after me who's coming into high school, but also to be able to share that with my colleagues and my coworkers, and to be able, having a classroom where diversity is emphasized can move into a school where diversity is emphasized, into a county where diversity is emphasized, into a state where diversity is emphasized, into a country where diversity is emphasized. So that's just something that I guess I took from everything, putting it all together. I think Castro and Banks play off each other very well, even if it's unintentionally. But both of them kind of showed me where the problems were and ways I can go about solving it and how I can apply that to being a teacher. I think that's really important in emphasizing a multicultural classroom.